Welcome back to Women of the Bible. Today we are looking at Hagar. Hagar was Sarah's maid, her slave. She's probably from Egypt and probably one of the gifts that the king gave to Abraham and his wife Sarah. You know, remember when he gave Abraham gifts of cattle, handmaid, servants and everything. So she's probably one of the slaves that was given to them as a gift. And Hagar became Sarah's handmaiden, her slave. So now, as we all know the story, hopefully you all know the story, Sarah and Abraham could not have a child of their own, and they were getting on in age. But there had been a promise. God had promised Abraham that they would have a child. But here now, Sarah could not wait. She was impatient. It's been 10 years since the promise. And she was thinking that, okay, this is never going to happen. I'm in my menopausal age. My husband is not getting any younger. I need to do something. I need to help God. So she decides to give her handmaid to her husband. So she will kind of be like a surrogate mom. So you see, this surrogacy is not a new thing at all. And so in those days, slaves really did not have a say in anything concerning them. They belonged to their master, body and soul and everything. They could not protest. They didn't have a right. They didn't have a voice. So Hagar could not even protest to say she did not want to sleep with Abraham. Maybe he's old and decrepit, or maybe she didn't just want to. She didn't have a voice. So Sarah went to her husband and said, okay, since I cannot give you a child and we're both getting on in age and it will be unfair for you to die childless because of me, why don't you sleep with my maid Hagar and have a child through me, for me, through Hagar, by me, through Hagar. Abraham initially resists. He doesn't want to, but she manages to persuade him, and so Abraham agrees. And he sleeps with Hagar, and Hagar gets pregnant. So when Hagar now gets pregnant by Abraham, she now all of a sudden sees herself in a different light. Abraham is a very wealthy man. He's rich in cattle, in handmaids, in servants. He's rich. He's filthy rich. And here she is carrying the heir, the child that's going to inherit everything that belongs to Abraham. So she must have seen herself in a different light, you know, not just as a slave anymore, but at least as a woman who is going to bring forth Abraham's child. So she's no longer respectful to her mistress, Sarah. She's now looks at Sarah in a different way. She's condescending. She's rude. She probably makes some snide comments here and there about her being fertile and Sarah being barren. And those days, people generally thought that if you're barren and you can't have a baby, you must have offended the gods, and that's your punishment. So there must have been all those snide, crude remarks and comments, just like the case of Peninnah and Hannah. Peninnah making all those snide comments and Hannah now having to cry and weep and pray before being blessed with a son. So it must have been something similar between Hagar and Sarah. So Sarah could not take it any longer, that this is my maid. This is somebody that I used to say come, and she will come and do this, and I used to send her about. And now she's being rude, she's being disrespectful. So Sarah could not handle that anymore and told her husband that, can you see how Hagar is being disrespectful to me? Anyway, it's not her fault, it's your fault. You're the one who brought this disgrace upon me. And Abraham must have thought, excuse me, you gave your maid to me. I didn't go into your maid. You forced her on me, you know, literally. So Abraham simply said, she's your maid. Do with her whatever you want. So Sarah now treats Hagar harshly, punishes her, maltreats her, treats her really bad, to the extent that this heavily pregnant woman had to flee. So Hagar now leaves the household and she starts going, presumably she's going back to Egypt, where she's from, to her family, so they can look after her. So on the way, she sits down, she's taking a breather, and an angel of the Lord meets her. Hagar, where are you going? Who are you running away from? Hagar says, I am running away from my mistress Sarah, because she's treating me badly and I can't stand it anymore. So I'm going probably back to her family in Egypt. And the angel of the Lord tells Hagar, go back and submit to your mistress. You're going to have a son, Ishmael, and he will be great. You know, he will be blessed exceedingly. He'll be given lands, and you know, he will have a multitude of descendants. So go back. Hagar listens, she obeys, she does not argue. Instead, she praises God, especially about the news she just heard about her child, and she goes back, and she must have submitted to her mistress Sarah. So at this point now, Hagar kind of fades out of the picture. Then God remembers Sarah, and she has a child, Isaac, which means laughter. Because you know, when she overheard the angels tell Abraham that Sarah will have a baby, she laughed. That at my age, you know, I'm all dried up. Even my husband is even more dried up than me, and we're going to have baby. So she laughed. So the baby's name Isaac means laughter. So she has a son. By this time, Ishmael is probably about between 14 to 17. He's a teenager, so not a young kid. And so one day, Sarah sees Ishmael making fun of Isaac. So we don't know exactly what Ishmael may have done or said, probably teasing the baby. Maybe Isaac is toddling and he was falling, and when he gets up to walk, he's falling, and Ishmael is mocking him, saying, come on, get up. You know, that's not how to walk. You know, some childish thing or the other, him saying it to his baby brother. But Sarah is not happy about it. And it suddenly dawns on Sarah that, hang on, this boy, this child of a slave, is going to inherit all my husband's property before my own son, Isaac. So she tells Abraham to get rid of Hagar and the boy. They need to leave. Ishmael is not going to inherit along with her son, Isaac. So I don't know how, you know, it's suddenly, because I thought Hagar being pregnant for Abraham, that means that boy is Sarah's son. But all of a sudden now, it seems like, no, it's not Sarah's son anymore, it's Hagar's son. So she tells this to Abraham, and Abraham is not happy, because at this point, Ishmael is a teenager. He's had Ishmael for all these years, living with him. He's looked after him, that's his son. And now to get rid of him. You know, the first time when Hagar was pregnant, she was pregnant. So that's why Abraham said, do with her what you want, she's your maid. He did not set eyes on the baby. He didn't have that connection yet with the child, because the baby was still in Hagar. So he could say, do what you want. But now the child is born. Abraham has bonded with his son. He's seen him grow up. He takes him around the place. Everybody knows this is Abraham's son. And now to send him away, that was tough. So Abraham didn't want to do that. He was displeased. He went to God and, you know, said, this is what Sarah is asking. What should he do? And God told Abraham, listen to Sarah, your wife. You know, listen to her. So reluctantly, Abraham gives Hagar some bread and some water and sends her and her son Ishmael out of the household to go. So Hagar is taking her son. They are going probably back to Egypt, where she's from, with her son. Even though the boy is a teenager, he's not used to the harsh route of the desert where they have to walk and go. The water soon runs out. The bread finishes. It's hot. If you know the desert heat, he's not been brought up in that way. He's been brought up in a household where he was the only child. He's been pampered. He was living in luxury. He clicks his fingers. A maid brings him food. A maid brings him water. They probably carry him all over the place. He's been used to a life of luxury. So he cannot bear the desert heat. It's foreign and alien to him. Unlike children who are actually born in the desert, they know how to survive. But those who were not born there, they maybe within a day, they'll probably be dead because they don't know how to survive in that situation. So she sees that the lad, and Hagar sees that her son is dying, probably because of thirst and hunger and the heat and everything. And he's crying. So she puts him far away and she goes somewhere else because she cannot watch her son die in her presence. So Hagar is crying, the boy is crying. The Bible says God heard the voice of the child. So you see why you cannot maltreat children? The Bible doesn't say that God heard Hagar's voice, but the voice of the child. So Ishmael's crying got to God's heart and answered. So an angel came to her. Her eyes were open. She saw a well not far from where she was. She was able to draw water and give the boy, and he was revived. And you know, again, there was that promise that he will be a father of many nations. He's going to be powerful. He's going to have multitude, but he's going to be a wild donkey of a man. His hand is going to be against everybody, and everybody's hand is going to be against him. So then Ishmael grows up in the desert. He knows how to survive in the desert, the archery, arrow, bow and arrow and everything. And Ishmael grows up in luxury in his father's house. And so the next time when both lads get together, that's Isaac and Ishmael, is when Abraham dies. And they come together to bury their dad, Abraham. But by that time, Sarah had died. We don't hear anything again about Hagar. So this basically is Hagar in the Bible. You know, so she's not really much talked about. Because when I was telling a friend, I'm going to do Hagar, say Hagar. But, you know, there's nothing really about Hagar. Well, there is. Even in Galatians, I hope, Paul talks about the child of the slave and the child of the free. He also references Hagar and Sarah. So he was saying that, you know, there's these two covenants. So one was made at Sinai and one is the law of grace. So he was talking about, so she was mentioned in the New Testament. So anyway, this is Hagar. And if I'm playing devil's advocate, I do feel a bit sorry for the woman, because she didn't have a say whether she wanted to sleep with Abraham or not. She just had to, because she was a slave. So she had to sleep with him, and she had the baby, and then she was sent away with the child, which doesn't sound very, very Christian, does it? But anyway, it happened and it happened, and we have Ishmael, and we have his descendants today, and we have Isaac, and we have his descendants today, and they are not friends. They are enemies. So as the Bible said that Ishmael will be a wild donkey of a man, his descendants are wild donkey of men. Their hands are against everybody, and everybody's hands are against them. So I leave it to you to deduce who Ishmael's descendants are. This is not a history lesson. I'm just talking about Hagar in Women of the Bible. Next, we shall do Sarah. We can't do Hagar without doing Sarah. And I couldn't do Sarah first before doing Hagar because, you know, it won't make sense. So anyway, consider subscribing to my channel, and I'll see you in Sarah. God bless you. Bye.